Hello everyone! I guess this will be my official Ben's Going Gambit course launch video. So this is what you get with the course. It's got 19 chapters. Okay, so we start with an introduction. So all of these are you click on there, you watch the video. You can also download the video as well. So we've got an introduction, overview to the Going Gambit. And then for each of these, there's also a Lichess study. Okay, so for example, you might look at the fully accepted 3 nights version. I've got one video on that. It's 90 minutes long. I've got one study, and each of the studies have just got each chapter is just one line. So it's not one of these studies that branches off and off. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works in a minute, because I've pulled out 8 of my kind of favourite traps and some of the most common lines that you'll ever see in the Going Gambit. Full bishop b4 check. So I go over all the most common lines. Now the course is set. It's not specifically for this range, but I've used the range 1000 to 1400 on Lichess, which is kind of top end beginner moving into intermediate, right? It's like the biggest chunk of the bottom half of everybody on Lichess. So I thought, that's going to be useful for most of us. But these are the same lines that I've studied, that I'm playing, and I'm like 1700 on Lichess. So it really is playable at absolutely every level, this stuff. So all that we go through all the fully accepted ones, and then when they take 2 pawns, not the third, we've got stuff on that. And in a couple of instances, I've got options, but it's very, very, very simple. And then we've got a few of the single ones. And then at the end as well, I also take you over the bird gambit as well, which is in response to the Philidor, but it shares many characteristics with the Goering. So that's just like a bonus. Anyway, let me take you through some of my favourites and give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour. Sorry, it's a bit cold, so I've got a hot choc here. I'm just warming my hands up, because otherwise I'll freeze to the mouse. Let me take you through some of my favourite things. A few of my favourite things. Okay, so I've made, this is just like completely separate study here, and this one is public, so you can go and find this one. It's called Going Gambit Top Traps. Okay, so let me give you a whistle-stop tour of the Going Gambit. So you know the Danish gambit, right? Where you play e4, e5, d4. And then what you're trying to do is you want them to take there, and then you offer them another pawn, and then they take that one, right? And then you bring your bishop out, and then they take the next pawn, and you've ended up with bishops here. Anyway, this is like that. But instead of playing d4 immediately, you play into this, right? So we play we play literally a scotch. And this is the correct move from black. They should take the pawn, because if they don't, we might advance. This is the engine's line. This is what most people play at high level. And then the classical scotch is you carry on and you'll trade. You'll capture here. They might trade off in the middle, whatever. Hey. Anyway, but now you see that the scotch is a bit like the Danish. So now they do this. You don't recapture. You play it kind of Ponziani style. You offer them another pawn. And then straight out of the Danish playbook, you whip out your bishop. Now, most common move, I think probably all the way up to 2000, is they'll keep gobbling pawns. Because black's thinking, look, this pawn's not going to live. Right? I might as well take out as many of my opponent's pawns as I can on the way out. It's logical, but the problem is, well, we've just recaptured that last pawn. So, in fact, he's 2 pawns up right now. Okay. Now, why are we doing this? Well, we are doing this because we have got something in return for our 2 pawns, what we've gambited away. Well, what have we got, Benjamin? I'm glad you asked. Well, we've got the evil bishops of doom dominating the diagonals of death. That's what we've got. Boom! The sound of doom. Here it comes, right? These bishops are evil mofos. I'm telling you, right? Also, we're ready to castle. He's not. Okay? And we've got this open space and open lines. So let me show you how it might go and come terribly unstuck for Mr. Black on the other side of the board. Okay, so after they fully accept and we recapture with a bishop, obviously you've got to, right? The most common move by Mr. Black is knight f6. So this brings us into what I call 3 knights position, right? Now the actual lessons themselves have got a lot more elaboration. The Quadrupus will talk you through a lot of more things, and then we've got like hints and stuff that you can have as well. But I've made these ones fresh just for the purpose of this video. Now, one of the great things about the Go in Gambit is that you can boil down a lot of your responses in a lot of the lines. So I've got 8 lines in this video. There's about 110 in the course itself. A lot of the responses are kind of golden rules, right? For example, if they play knight f6, we push e5. Nearly all the time. I mean, there are options. There are other things that we could do. Castling's absolutely fine. Queen b3, again, is a move that we play all the time. Absolutely fine. But as a general rule, you can't go wrong with this, okay? Now, black cam. So I'm going to show you the first 5 of these lines all come from this position, believe it or not. The most common position that you're going to get, right? Black's most common moves, I'll tell you what they are. Knight g4. Knight e3. And he can bring his bishop out here with check. He can do this. I'm not going to show you absolutely every one because each one of those has got its own like chapter. So this is the most common one. Now, one of our golden rules is, can we play Queen b3? And if we can, then we generally should. However, if you're feeling funky, right? Now, Queen b3 and h3 are actually fine. If you look at this, we've actually defended that pawn twice. And it's weird. Sometimes we just don't notice these fianchettoed bishops, right? A number of times they will capture this pawn and just lose a piece. Just straight up lose a piece, blood, right? So you can just castle here, okay? And guess what? If they grab that piece, which they will do a lot of the time, you just snatch a rook, okay? We've now got 2 pieces looking at f7, and black is starting to go, okay, I'm enjoying my pawns, but I'm kind of a knight down, but I've got to get rid of that, right? And then you snatch that knight off, and guess what? This is what we mean. I mean, yeah, you've actually won a knight. You've won a piece back. We've got 3 minor pieces. So we're not even down in material. We're plus 3.6. And so many of the lines in this course will finish with me putting in the comment, we're still a pawn down, but we're plus 4. We're still a pawn down, but we're plus 2.7. Right? It's like white is just practically winning in so many lines and playing a lot of the same moves kind of automatically. Look at these 2 bishops. They're just dominating. And black's got nothing. All black has done is picked up both knights and a pawn and dropped them on the floor. He's not developed anything. He's practically lost. Plus 3.6 is basically lost. Okay. We'll go through the opening moves again. We're going to pretend to play a Scotch. Here comes a Scotch. Scotch game accepted. Go in Gambit with c3, accepted. Bishop out. Right? Fair enough. Right, we always push e5. They come in here. We castle. Okay? Now, this is actually black's most common move. Right, rather than taking the pawn. At 1000 to 1400. But not exactly in this position. I think the other day I had back-to-back in my speedrun, I had back-to-back games where they took 2 pawns and then played this. Right, now, the key square here, as it says, is this square d5. d5 is, we've always kind of got an eye on that. And there's a couple of landmines, I call them, right? So this knight comes out and never lands on here, or this bishop comes out to here. They are both in the range of d5. And that then raises some very interesting possibilities, which involve putting our queen on d5. However, so what we have to say to ourselves is, there's these two options, right? There's the best move in chess, bishop takes f7 check. Okay. And usually the king will capture. Usually he shouldn't. He should just actually dodge. Or there's the idea of the immediate queen d5 threatening mate. Now, in this instance, which one should we do? Can we play queen d5? And the thing to look for is, well, does black have, for example, queen e7? Because queen e7 defends that a second time, because the king already defends, and defends the bishop. So queen d5 here would be too slow. Therefore, that's what the landmine does. If he takes, which he nearly always will do unless he's a strong player, then it's queen d5. So what have we done? We've won a pawn, we've won his f-pawn, and we've made his king move. Right? We're still down a pawn, but we're plus 2.3. How do you like them odds? Right, let's look at another one. Play the same old moves. So in the course, there's a setup thing where we get to like the branching point where you play. I don't make you play through all the moves on every chapter. Okay, it's fully accepted, right? They play knight here, which they'll play about 30% of the time, 25 to 30% of the time. Right, if they don't put the knight here, they'll very often put it here. Again, right, that's a landmine square. Bishop on there is a landmine square. Can we do this? Okay, now, I'll be honest with you. At 1000 to 1400 level, queen d5, threatening mate, and forking the knight works. It wins something like 87% of games, okay? But it's not the best move. Now, if you're a beginner, that will probably work fine, because he'll go, oh no, my knight, and he'll do something else to defend that, and you take the knight, okay? However, if you do this, he does actually have knight g5 to defend f7. But then you say, yeah, but Hunty, we can take the knight there. But then he takes back with his queen, and what he's done is he's vacated this square. So now if we go in with our queen, with check, he's got king d8, and he's actually not in too much trouble. Okay, I know it looks complicated, but the easiest one is to go, okay, well, bird in the hand. I know that I can make him lose castling rights and win a pawn with the same idea as that. Okay, completed that lesson. We're a pawn down, but winning. Okay, we're ready to castle. He can never castle. He's only got one knight out on the board, and look at this bishop. You know, still very often ideas of capturing on g7. This bishop is now tied to the defense of that pawn. We can win rooks and all kinds of things in different lines. Okay, ready for another one. So, fully accepted. We've got our lovely bishops here, and he's played his knight out to here. We always push. Okay, now his most common response is knight g4. That doesn't tend to work out too well, particularly if he snatches this pawn, right? Other response, knight e4. That fails. Okay. In fact, we just take there. The third most common response from black at the 1000 to 1400 is queen e7. And queen e7 is a blunder. So you know what they're doing, right? They're saying, well, you can't take my knight now because this pawn is in a pin, and you know, you're being checked, so you can't do it. It's illegal. Right? Now, people do this in like the Russo. And in the Russo, all we do is we play, well, we're on the black side. We play, if they play queen e2 to pin our pawn, we play queen e7, break the pin. And then the knight has to retreat. Here we don't do that. Here we just castle. Right? We want, very often, this is something to remember, we want Eddie the e-pawn to die. Poor Eddie, right? But, you know, he's giving his life for the cause. 42% of the time, black will do this. So, What do we want to do? Well, we want Eddie to die. Oh my God, they killed Eddie. You bastards, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to tickle the knight and say, go on then. And then we just trade everything off. And after this, guess what Black does most of the time? That's right, he blunders his queen. And we win 89% of games. Seriously, I'm not even making this up. Right, so that's four. Well, one more from the three knights. Okay, so fully accepted, lovely bishops, knights come out, we push e5. Very often as well, you don't have to castle in a hurry. I used to castle far too early, playing the Goering and the Danish. Because black is so far behind on development, if you look at the board and go, there's no threat. Like even bishop here is not a threat. You block it with your knight. It's always c3, by the way, right? Right, fourth most common response after this, this, and this. Guess what it is? Okay, there you go. And we always block that with a knight here. And now 43% of the time, they'll go in. Why are they doing that? Well, they see 2 attackers, 1 defender. And it's pinned. So happy days. And then what do? We go, bam, 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 right? Landmine square. The knight's landed on there, hasn't it? So, first question, right? If we do this, can Queen e7 defend? Well, it can defend against that, so I think we just go straight in, right? Now, he could play knight g5 here, but beginners and even intermediates just don't tend to find that. They'll snatch that, and guess what we do? What do we do here? Right, we're in check. Just take it. Black can't take the bishop because he gets mated, right? So he can't, he castles. We snatch the knight. We say, thank you very much, we're up a piece for a couple of pawns, and we win 73% of games from there. Okay, so that's five ways that black can cock up from the most common line that you will find in the Goering. Okay? Let's just, like, again, from here, the most commonly played move is that, right? You play knight f3, you'll get knight c6 nearly all the time. Sometimes you'll get like a Petrov, right? You play the Scotch, the most common move is that. You play this, the most common move is to take the second pawn. The most common move is to take the third pawn, and then they do that. And we've just seen 5 different ways in which they can bollocks it up. And by the way, that's not even counting bishop to there, which is also very poor as well. But anyway, that's not what I brought you here to talk about. Okay, fully accepted d6. I'm just going to throw 3 more interesting lines at you. Okay, so we're Goering. Never boring with the Goering. That's what they always say. Have you heard that saying? Life's never boring with the Goering. Right, d6. The move d6 we see a lot of the time. And if we have got our bishop here, and we haven't played queen b3, then you almost automatically, you should never play any moves completely automatically. Look at the board. You play queen b3 and set up our barrage. Okay? They play queen e7. What do we do? All together now, short castles. Queen e7, we castle. Most commonly played move by black is that it's a blunder, right? They do this, we trade bishops, and they say, thank you very much for this pawn. I'm forking these 2 pieces. And black is basically lost. It's plus 5.0, and we're a pawn down, right? That's what can go wrong. Are you not entertained? Double accepted, bishop c5. Right? Now this is, I think, what we saw a couple of times the other day. In succession, I played 2 games with the white pieces on my speedrun, right? And fools played this twice. Or did they? No, they didn't. They played the bishop out, and then I played the pawn up, I think, twice. Yeah, completely different. Anyway, but bishop c5, landmine, right? Question, does this work? Well, does black have queen e7 to defend the pawn and that? He does indeed. So boom, bada boom. Right? Now, If you've ever played the Hacksaw Gambit, Hacksaw Gambit is very, very similar to this because we also play c3. So that comes from the Scotch Gambit where you play bishop c4 first and then you play this. Probably the exact same position, actually. Now, yes, you can just snatch the bishop back. We're 4 materials down right now. We're down a bishop and a pawn. You can just snatch the bishop back. But even better is queen h5 check because we want to prompt this move. Okay, and then we come back for the bish. Most common move is this, and we come back and we snatch this pawn here, right? Now, instead of that, if they just take here, we take back with the bishop, and guess what? The rook's in trouble. He's got to play his... Well, this is actually bad. This is like 2.3, yeah, 2.3 for white here. Equal material. We're about to castle. I would probably just ignore the threat on that. It's not even a threat because we capture the rook, you know. So we've got everything here, you know. Equal material, but everyone would want to be white. And finally, let me show you some absolute filth. Straight from the chess dark web. Okay? This is vile. And if you ever get it over the board, you can thank me later. Buy me a pint. The Scotch game. Accepted. The Gambit Gambit. Declined. DC. Right. So these are some notes that I've taken from my thing. Black's passive play concedes the centre without a fight. So CD, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely fine if you want to play like a grown-up every day, all day, every day, right? But remember what I said about D6. D6, when our bishop is here, we always play Queen B3. Okay? So we're just going to go, I'm going to put my bishop there. Right? I'm going to set up my battery. You play D6, I'm going to set up my battery. That's what I'm going to do, right? Now, most commonly they'll do this, okay? In which case, we can do that and just carry on regardless. If they keep taking pawns, we'll do that and improve our bishop. Happy days. The second most common move is this. Now, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. Carry on with the barrage. Set it up. Okay, now, anytime this light square bishop comes out of here, and we're, you know, because like in the Ponziani or the Alpine Sicilian, when you push the C pawn, you very often get some nasty moves with this queen. Right, he's undefended the B7 pawn, hasn't he? Okay, so we're just going to dive in, we're going to grab it. Okay, now, what would you play in this position? Okay. A lot of us would do that, or we do that, or we do that, right? No, 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 no. Bishop E3, sacrificing the bishop. Now, he's moved his rook here because if he just took this, we'd have taken the rook there with check. Okay, so he puts a rook there, right? And he's thinking, I'm attacking his queen. My queen defends the knight defends the rook, the knight defends that. Okay, yes, this pawn's hanging. But what's the worst that could happen? Okay, we'll take that pawn. They take our bishop. Pause if you need. And find the final move of the game. That's right. Bishop takes f7 check. Mate. Ends the game with the best move in chess and a sacrifice. And it's all there in the folds of the Gambit. So I've just showed you 8 lines. There are about 110 or so in the whole course for you to drill. The point, this is not a course for professional chess players who are preparing for a bloody tournament, right? This is a course for people who want to go out there and peel back some wigs and split some skulls, right? And pop a cap in a mofo, right? That's what it's for. So we haven't got it. It's not your full-time job to remember loads and loads and loads of theory. Okay, so you're not even supposed to remember the lines that I show you in the course because 100, you know, that's too many for me to remember. Okay, so I've used the kind of the rule. If I can't remember it, you're not going to remember it either. right? So what I've done is, that's why I've boiled it down into these little rules. And there's a lot of other patterns in there as well. There's probably 7 or 8 rules to remember, and you've already seen half of them, you know? And that's it. It is a load of fun. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. There are ways for black to equalise against the Goering. It's not dubious. Some people have claimed it's dubious in my comments. It's not dubious because it doesn't backfire on white. It really doesn't, you know. Not if you know what you're doing. Yes, of course, we can always shoot ourselves in the face. That happens all the time, right? I don't win every game in the Goering, not by a long chalk, right? Sometimes I forget my own, you know, my own theory. That you know, that's the game. We're playing a game. We're enjoying ourselves. There are decent lines for black, okay, but honestly, it's no better. Even if black has seen this before, right? He's going to struggle, and he's going to sweat, and he's not going to enjoy himself, and he's going to have a bad time, and that's what we want, isn't it? Really, we want to make our opponents cry and wish they'd never, you know, left home. So that's it. But anyway, so it's a lovely course. So you get it by going to chessbootcamp.club, right? You click on this attractive green button, and the course is $29, right? Which is nothing compared to the hundreds that you pay for Chessable courses that include the videos, right? A lot of Chessable courses over $100 for just the PGNs, basically, right? And they charge you another $150 to download some videos. No, we don't think that's right. You know, this is for the people. Solidarity. Okay? But anyway, in December, if you put the code early in, you'll get it less than that. Okay? So put in the code early when you sign up, right? And this is all the stuff in it, and that's the stuff about me. You put this in there, you put all your stuff, you type the code early in there, and you get it for $19 instead of $29. Put in your payment stuff, and you're in, and you've got it. Okay? And if you do that, thank you very much. You're wonderful. I love you. You're going to love the course, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So that's all I have to say about that. See you later.